इस तरफ से गुजरे थे काफिले बहारों के, आज तक सुलगते हैं जख्म राहगुजारों के। खलावतों के शायदाई खलावतों में खुलते हैं, खलावत के शायदाई खलावतों में खुलते हैं। हमसे पूछ कर देखो राज पर्दादारों के, गेसों की छाँव में दिलनवाज चेहरे हैं, गेसों की छाँव में दिलनवाज चेहरे हैं, या हसीन दुडलकों में फूल है बहारों के। पहले हंस के मिलते थे, पहले हंस के मिलते हैं फिर नज़र चुराते हैं, पहले हंस के मिलते हैं फिर नज़र चुराते हैं। आशना सिफत है लोग अजनबी दयारों के। Namaskar and welcome, hello and welcome to Sheetalath Conversations weekend show. This is your host Jugal Koul speaking from the threshold of Sheetalath Conversations. I hope you all are doing very well. And I feel I regret and I feel sorry that after a great lull of almost 1.5 months, we are again face to face with each other because I was busy with my personal domestic affairs. But yet Sheetalath Conversation was on, its R&D was on, we were researching, meeting people, talking to the personalities, and that's how it is. It's certainly a great, great ray of joy again has come and touched my heart that we are again in a rendezvous with all our wonderful, esteemed viewers, followers, the great people, the legendary personalities who have come and conversated, who have done conversation on this platform. So that's how it is, and I feel really, really, really grateful to all of you. Once again, my gratitude. And so again, like that old bioscope wala in a street, Indian street, who goes and tells the children that here is another slide for another bioscope movie. So today I'm again going to pick up as a bioscope wala and move again to this mosaic, which is known as the civilization in this part of the country, this known as Crown from time immemorially, Kashmir, and its stories, its anecdotes tread across the civilizational, peripheries and go into the history, art, culture, literature, musicology, monarchies, transitions, waterways, landscape, inter and intra community, interactions, and bonhomie, and whatnot, treatises, travelogues, and chronicles, and also about many things about the legends, the icons, the maestros, as D.P. Dar used to say, Men and Matters used to write a column I heard from my elders, Men and Matters, and certainly today we are going to talk about a man and the matters. So matters surrounding him. So today we are going to talk about the life and times of Dr. Vijay Sazawal. Who doesn't know Dr. Vijay Sazawal? He's an eminent Indian public figure and nuclear industry professional, expert, a well-known nuclear policy analyst, a vociferous commentator on India and its northern state, Kashmir, specialized in intra-community, issues, including the political dynamics. So we are also going to talk about his wonderful book, which is a collection of his, specialist, articles over the last 40 years, between 1986 and 2023. It's an analysis of rapid changing landscape of Kashmir, and certainly we are going also to talk about many other aspects. He has written extensively on Kashmir and well-known specialist papers bringing forth internal and external socio-political dimensions during the unfortunate, horrendous, that mass exodus which happened in 1990 when all Kashmiris had, come out, and it was like an ethnic cleansing. And he had played a very crucial torchbearer's role in exposing the historic tragedy to the international arena. He's a founding member and the former president of Indo-American Kashmiri Forum, and he's present international coordinator of this forum, and he's also the international coordination for the sister organizations like similar sister organizations like Indo-Canadian Kashmiri Forum and Indo-European Kashmiri Forum. And he extensively is writing for the Crown of India, Kashmir, and its return to the days of pristine, normalcy, pristine stability and peace and tranquility and bonhomie. In this domain, he has interacted with a vast number of people. He's continuously engaging with the interaction with a wide spectrum of people, the national and local levels, which include the bureaucrats, the journalists, and the and the politicians, and last but not the least, the common man. The common man, the wide spectrum of common man, different sections of our society. He's a former alumnus. You must be very proud that he's a former alumnus from Tyndall Biscu High School, Memorial High School, Srinagar, and Amar Singh College, Srinagar. And then he has done his, masters in engineering from completed masters in engineering in United States of America, and he is also, he has also completed his doctoral degree from United States of America. He's a very well-known personality in American circles, a frequent commentator on the Voice of America, a well-known member of an NGO which is accredited with the National Human Rights Commission, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, Human Rights Council. Yeah. So he's spoken several times in the Geneva about Kashmir. He was invited by the U.S. Congress and the administration and the think tanks several times to speak on Kashmir, and his political assessment and commentaries on local governance in Kashmir has been put on record and been published by the local dailies as well as the television networks. A specialist in nuclear fuel cycle, he was appointed by U.S. government member of U.S. Department of Commerce's Civil Nuclear Trade Advisory Committee, 2011, where he was re-elected after, after 2 years. Every 2 years, he was re-elected for 3 times, and finally, till he's elevated in 2018. He's also been awarded by Kashmiri Overseas Association immediately in aftermath of that horrendous mass exodus in 1992, and where he was honored for highlighting the plight of Kashmiri Pandits, and he's also been awarded by this American foundation, Hindu Foundation, for his lifelong service to the minorities issues in Kashmir. He's an expert on nuclear agreement for the U.S.-India Business Council, senior fellow in the U.S. Nuclear Infrastructure Council, and advisor of U.S. government on Kashmir. Dr. Sazawal is a very well-known leader of eminence amid the Kashmir diaspora. He is, this is not a political program, this is not a religious program, but yet when the personalities who have the political connotations, they come in, we certainly we have to talk about their life as well. So here is Dr. Vijay Sazawal, and I'm really grateful that he has come, his magnanimity, and let's invite him back to the studio. And Dr. Sazawal, welcome to the 105th Sheetalnath Conversation Show. It's a great honor to have you on my show.
Sir, it's a pleasure for me to be on the show also. And I thank you for inviting me. I thank you for sharing this program with your colleagues and your audience. And it's a matter of great satisfaction. You're talking to this. So I look forward to this conversation.
Thank you very much. Once again. Dr. Saab, you have spent your infancy and younger days in Kashmir, and I want to know and elaborate your witness of Kashmir in those tender days and your family, neighborhood, landscape, institutions, inspirations. How different it was from the other contemporaries of yours?
Well,
how different it's from?
The I would say my getting upbringing in Kashmir was very normal, very usual. I didn't belong to any rich family or anything like that. We were what I will call middle class, typical middle class family. And one of the unique things that was with our family was that none of them were in government service.
Oh,
It was
that's
unique
so. That's unique.
because that sort of lent you stature in many ways in Kashmiri among Kashmiri Pandit community, and we were really a business oriented people. Most of the business was primarily in the medical distribution of our pharmaceutical distribution, with which not only my uncle and my father and even on my uncle's cousins, there were others in the family also were engaged in the similar activity. So it was a very mundane middle class life. We grew up with the with the people on our either side being Muslim families, born in Badiyar, which is next to Ganpatiyar in
But yeah,
and Badiyar we had a very old house, probably 200-300 year old house. And then eventually, though, we moved to what was then a suburb, which you can recognize today as a suburb. It's as crowded a ghetto as any can be, which is in Wazirba.
was
Uh,
it?
and so we moved there, and there all our family cousins all made a similar looking houses, actually identical looking houses. So we were in a big compound
Huh.
with multiple houses, and so that was sort of this family's style. We did have when the you know when there was an opportunity. Our family had the first phone around there. My dad had the first car in the family. I mean, cars were already there outside, but so he was always kind of very, very forward-looking, very outgoing person. And one of the things was that he and well, my mother felt we should go to a school which is a little better because there was no sense in those days that you had to be in the top schools or with that sense of
Yeah.
entitlement or sense of getting the quality of the schools was not important. Actually, you could go to actually the most popular school among Kashmiri Hindus was DAV school, which was
DAV.
a private school, and that was so you had a government school and you had a DAV school. Then if you went to either Burnhall or Bisco school was closer to our home. Otherwise, if Burnhall would have been closer, I think I would have sent me there. But the interesting thing is that when I was sent there, most of the family members, especially from my Matamal side and all that, they said the school is no good for academics. It's only doing
Excursions.
yeah, it's excursions and boating and rafting and all that stuff.
No
Where
reading.
else are they studying? So, but I gave to the credit of my parents. They said, no, this is the school you should go, and it's a little tuition, a little bit more than perhaps I can afford, but I will send him to that school. So, and unfortunately for me, I was an overweight a boy, and so I couldn't really enjoy those sports activities like most of the people at my age did. It was really very very sort of hard for me for those kind of activities, but I don't remember ever blaming it on my parents like their kids do or they have become dysfunctional or anything like that. It was all taken in the vein of the days. It was a very mundane, simple life. Basically the focus was entirely on studies and school, and we had a few friends I didn't have many friends. I had few friends, and that was the nature of that group. We used to do a lot of activities in that sense. My father was very outdoor oriented. We used
Okay.
to go to every year we would go to Palgam or Gulmarg. These were the only two places where we would go for summer. We'd pitch a tent. We would actually do outdoor cooking and all that. And still remember the bath early morning taking a leather to Pahalgam, shivering like crazy.
Leather.
My
Yeah.
dad said, "No, we have to do it. That's where we're going to take our bath." So those were really very very memorable days from that. So it was a very ordinary life. There was nothing really, sort of standing out that would tell me, I went a certain direction or not. One of the easy things for us was, quite frankly, when I was growing up, I didn't really think about my future or anything like that. At our age, it was a set thing that our parents would do that thinking. And so when I went to there was a question when we went from Amherst College or SP College. Amherst College, of course, was very close to us. It was literally about 5 minutes walk, 5 10 minutes walk. But it was decided that I was not going to go in for medical. I was going to go for engineering. For some reason, they thought Amherst College was a better for engineering. But I didn't. Quite honestly, I did not even participate in that discussion. I was just a bystander, as elders were all discussing where this boy should go. And the fact that you had been grown up with the idea that that's okay, so it didn't hang up in your mind. You can't tomorrow say I didn't do well because you didn't let me have the decision. It was not. It was nothing like that. The fact is, it all worked out. So very positive memories of childhood. As I said, the only thing probably we were missing, we didn't have those Lal Bati, policemen and Lal Batis and all that around houses which we saw of many Kashmiri pundits had, whose people were working for senior bureaucrat families
Government
in the
job. But I think that was that. I think that was a very thin, very slim minority. Rest of all, we were all middle class, lower middle class people, Kashmiri Pandits.
Very,
Yeah.
very true. But they would. I mean, you could see their. I mean, I thought that was the only thing growing up where I felt there was a social class among Kashmiri Pandits. Between
Elitism.
those who were working for the government and those who were not working for
They
the
were
government.
elites.
They kind of gave themselves that sense that they were different.
Yeah.
But it was okay. I mean, as you said, our size was very large, so we were in that pool of ordinary people, ordinary families, and we did okay.
That was so lovely. That was so lovely. You have written a note about your father, that your father was a very avid golfer, and he went to the club. He was a man of many tastes and many he had wonderful talents, and he was an explorer and a progressive personality, a man of aspirations. Very fascinating personality. Tell us about something about
No,
also him.
he was a really very special person. There used to be a column coming in the Readers Digest, which he used to subscribe, by the way, which I would read also.
Yeah, people had
Which
this.
which had a the most unforgettable character you have ever met. It used to be the sort of a monthly column in that. And actually, once I actually took the exercise of writing that essay and mailing it to Readers Digest, though it never, I'm sure it had so many grammatical mistakes and all those things, but it never made it anywhere. Even the subject they wouldn't care, but I do remember that. He was on the cutting edge in many ways. He saw himself as a pioneer in the line of work that he did, and he had a special mention for the good dressing up. He was a very
Yeah.
natty person with the suits and all that. I remember still in childhood he had two tailors. One was called Excelshire Tailors, which was on the Burn, and the other one was called F.H. Paul, who actually whose successors are still near Adils right now. And he would basically, kind of switch between the two, depending on, one made one kind of suit and the other one made another kind of suit. So he loved wearing fine clothes. That was one of the interesting things.
Very immaculately dressing. Yeah.
Very immaculately dressed, and
Yeah.
in fact, the other thing was that he was subscribing to magazines like Psychologist, Time magazine,
All
and
the
Reader's
great
Digest.
magazines.
Back in 1950s,
I know.
when hardly anybody, in fact, Kashmiri bookshop, which was next on Residency Road next to Adu, they would tell, it was a Sardarji who owned the place. He would tell him that, I have tough time getting these magazines because you are the only one in the city who is subscribing to these magazines, and they all come from UK. And so he said, okay, it doesn't matter, even when they're 1 or 2 months late because of the postal, charges are not too steep, so go by surface mail, but they're still valuable to you. So he was, he was very, 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 very well read and very well, into the activities of of the day.
Of the day.
And I didn't see him growing up. I didn't see him politically oriented in any particular direction.
But he was social. He was experimenting with socialism, as you have written somewhere.
Yeah,
Socialism
yeah. I mean,
and yeah.
yeah. I was talking about personality. That's right. He was actually at one time an avid member of the Communist Party of Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah.
I believe probably somewhere around 1945, 46, 47, when he was involved with them. He was in SP college, and I think those were the days when people like DP Dar and those kind of guys were also hobnobbing with communism we had Sadiq Saab,
I think
GM
one and everyone. It was fashionable. One and everyone in Kashmir was a socialist in those
yeah.
days.
But in terms of what I was trying to tell you, it was in terms of his religion. I mean, his religious propensity of Hindu versus Muslim. That really never occurred in my youth. Now I would say that changed in him in the later years, but not in the years that I was still in the valley. I never saw him ever talk about anybody, Hindu or Muslim, in a derogatory way.
Yeah, that thing was not existent in those days, back days.
That to me was, so. If I had a couple of Muslim friends and they would come home, they would be welcome. I mean, there was nobody
There
saying
was no
like,
restrictions in those
yeah,
days.
there was no such thing. No, again, I will tell you, post 1970, that changed. He couldn't
1970.
post 1970s, he changed. Because he started feeling the pressure on his profession,
Oh.
where basically because he was fairly successful, and after, I would say, if I had to put a year on it, it would be the year that Sheikhullah came back to power. I think
74.
Today, as I look at it as a political analyst, I would also say that the turning point in Kashmir was really when Sheikhullah and
Sheikh Saab came to power.
Indira Gandhi ji signed the agreement that paved the way back for him to come to the state. I think state just went communal slowly, step by step. After that.
I think probably there could be also one of the reasons the competition among the lot of Kashmiri Muslims. They started reading, coming to the college, and doing businesses, which had a pressure, which built a pressure in the complete economy, or something like that happened. Do you
No,
agree with that?
that was already there. I mean, it didn't. What made believe it, because already the people were getting, that enlightenment had already come. I mean, ever since, you can argue, ever since 49 or 50, when Sheikhullah took over the power. I mean, it stayed consistently in the hands of the Muslims after 1950.
No, that's true.
And so
Majority.
so they were there. I mean, I saw myself effect of that. You can argue for a soft ethnic cleansing. See, I when I graduated from Amar Singh College, I was something like eighth or ninth from the college.
Oh,
In terms of my FSc degree, and I think for the state, I was like 20th or 21st. Now, at that time, there were. I remember I'm going in engineering,
okay, sir.
so my family applies to the Regional Engineering College, Srinagar, and it had electrical, civil, and mechanical, three only disciplines at that time. There were 60 seats each, and 30 were assigned to the valley, 30 were assigned to out of state because it was a regional engineering college.
Originally.
So I
I must.
had applied for electrical, and knowing that I was 21st and I knew not all 21st people above me were all applying to the engineering college, so I knew I should get it, and yet I did. This is 1962.
1962, my goodness. Way
I,
back
I
then.
did. So I pushed very hard. It's very difficult for me. As I said, we didn't have any relative in government service. So we had to go to cousins of cousins to find some good person who could go and,
Guide.
go into the system and find out what happened to this. Why did this boy get? Finally, they called me. The registrar calls me. Don't remember his name. Anyway, registrar calls me at the regional college. And he comes in and he first gives me a big lecture about how smart I am, how intelligent I am, how impressed I am by this thing. And then he tells me, you can get your admission to any school in India.
Okay.
So why are you so particular about staying here? I mean, this is a small college. This is just started. It is, it's not that well known. Let go somewhere where you can actually get real education. Let some less fortunate boy get in place of me. And I insisted, no, I want to be in this college because, frankly, that was
You had the merit and you were
I was
eligible.
told that you have to exist. Then he comes with a compromise. He says, you know what? I give you a seat in metallurgy engineering.
Oh, that
I
was
said,
hopeless.
you don't have. I said, you don't have metallurgy engineering. You have only civil, electrical. He says, no, we are planning to start it in a couple of years, and you will be given
Oh,
a sort of associate seat till then. I said, what happens if I don't get it? Say after 2 years, then he says, well, then you will have to be sent to a school in India, which has a exchange program with Kashmir where they give seats to boys and girls from Kashmir. So in other words, it could be any college where they would cut a deal. So I came home. I said, no, I'm not. That's not acceptable to me. But the idea you can see is, of course, then I went to Banaras University. But the idea you see is they knew the moment I will leave the valley for education, higher education in India, I'm pretty much gone.
Once for all.
So that is the soft. So it is. I'm talking about 1962. We're talking about soft ethnic cleansing in Kashmir.
Doctor, Saab, basic question comes into my mind. It's not a political show, but you are a very veteran in this field. I really fail to understand one thing. We were sizable minority, we were a small minority in Kashmir. And when the democracy came in, and our forefathers like Sheikh Saab and Jawaharlal Nehru and others, they didn't plan any protection to us in terms of, so that we could sustain politically there. Wasn't it evident and obvious that we are in the minority and maximum things will go to the majority? Didn't our elders understand that?
Yes, they did. Actually, they did. But the understanding that Nehru had, now remember, in India, Nehru faced the same problem with minorities. And his mindset was part of the democratic process has to be an accommodation of minorities.
Hmm.
And so he created lots of spaces in which the minorities of India would actually prosper and further
Yeah.
themselves.
Equal in equal terms.
He was expecting that his best friend, Sheikh Mohammed
Sheikh Saab.
Abdullah, who he came across to him equally as democratic and as much a democrat as he was,
Great leader he
would
was.
do
Sheikh
the
Saab was a
same
great leader.
in
Yeah.
Kashmir.
He was the tallest leader. Yeah.
And it was very difficult at that time to think he would not, because when he would show up at these meetings in Delhi, he would show up with people like Mr. Dutt, Mr. Saraf,
All together.
all these people would be with him. So
Bazaz, Premnath
well,
Bazaz.
because I know that I agree, but his
Yeah.
ministers were with him, and that was so he had the feeling that he will be similar. What he didn't, of course, realize at that time was that Sheikh was actually looking for a way out to create his own sheikhdom. And that became apparent after he sent him to the United Nations to defend India. Well, he did a great job in his speech. If you look at the speech of
Sheikh
Sheikh
Saab.
Mohammed Abdullah in the United Nations in support of India, it's wonderful. But he subsequently met with American officials, and they basically manipulated him, and then they came back to India, and in India they again met with him, and that's when Nehruji had no other choice but to take him
That
into
is,
the
that is the typical Kashmiri nature. But I think I also pity one thing. Today, Sheikh Saab has done so much for the majority. Although he had a lihaz kind of a thing with the minority, but there was no protect us. But Sheikh Saab did so much for the majority in Kashmir. Yet today, I am saddened to feel that majority now they are all taking their back to Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah. Malab, such a tall leader who really liberated them and emancipated them. That is something dichotomy.
sorry to
Yeah.
say it, but I don't agree actually,
Okay.
because there is optics. I mean, social media and all those things. I mean, there are some cronies of his opponents who are raising that kind of thing. I mean, I go to Kashmir all the time. One of the big things was I did the dissection on the election that took place
Right, sir.
recently of the parliament seats. Unanimously, most people at any strata said Sheikh Abdullah Sahab gave us the dignity, gave us
Oh,
the land,
that's so
which we will never forget. And India can do what all it can do, what all dramas it can do, what all improvements it can do. For them to think that we will not vote NC
yeah, that
is
is
not
true.
not
And they should. They should. Because NC has
so
given them everything.
so
Yeah.
so so as I said, I'm an analyst who is not pro BJP and
Or
NC
we are not.
or pro Congress. I am an analyst. I look at the ground, and the ground is very clear. BJP can spend zillions of rupees.
But it cannot come
Public is
back.
not
Sheikh
going
Saab's.
because they still remember that our people have basically been in those fields, busting their backs and
Right.
didn't own any of that land, and today they own the land. Now, my own thought about this is that it was probably justified, but he went. Sheikh Saab went one step further. He did that without compensation, and I don't think that was fair. I don't think they should
That
have.
was not fair. Even probably I
I think,
heard
I
from.
think the central government should have intervened, and basically they should have taken up the case.
And this idea of land to the tiller basically was for the big huge landlords. It came from the Russia and other places than in India and other UP. But it was for the huge big land barons. It was not for the ordinary land dwellers like Kashmiris. Not only Kashmiri Pandits, sir, Kashmiri Muslims were also landholders. I heard an interview recently, a Kashmiri Muslim. He was crying. He said that sari zameen khe greshte. मतलब we were I saw that पर जमीन पर तमुल वाता ट्रक हुआ तमुलस वाता पंज जमीन हुन मतलब ना they had a land. Not only Kashmiri Pandits had the land.
No,
Kashmiri
that's
Muslims.
true. I mean, there were, it all depended on who was in the court.
Yeah.
If Hari Singh court did not, there were Muslims in Maharaja Hari Singh's court. They were all landowners. Just
Doctor,
like
Doctor, we will come back to the basic subject. Then we'll move slightly on the outer periphery. It's very enjoyable. We're talking. Your father. You have written that your father is such a great man. I mean, who took a very parallel path and who just defied the traditional way of going to the government job and created his own empire. And finally, that's that man who lived life to the fullest. And finally, he used to see horoscopes when he went after the post migration. Was he a bitter man after 1990s when he
He was very
migrated?
bitter. He was very bitter. One of the problems was that until 1990, he would come and visit us in the United States frequently. But after 1990, when he basically was forced out, and he went to Delhi, he went to Jammu for a few days, but eventually settled in Delhi. He rented a place in Delhi. I told him, come on, don't, you can't take the heat of Delhi, come on over here. He said, no, I can't because I have still left my house open.
Uh,
And so I got to go back, formally close the house and everything else, and then come, then see what I can do. And the tragedy is, of course, in the meantime, the house was looted and burned. So he sent me one day these photographs by mail of the
Very
Life
interesting.
Insurance Corporation, or I don't know which insurance was sending the photographs of our burned house. And that really crushed me. He was so depressed after that. I remember when he was getting in more help then after that, he told me that when I die, please, on my obituary, you must write, he died as a refugee.
Oh my God.
But frankly, that is what that's how I labeled it when that announcement was made in Pershing Samachar in Delhi. He was very depressed.
Yes, that's a very sad story of everyone among us, and certainly the people of that generation who never thought to leaving Kashmir. Kashmir was everything for them. So with that, it brings sadness around. I would like to go back to your Benares days. What was your what are your some? Do you
Well,
remember some?
one of the interesting things in Benares was there was a large Kashmiri Pandit
Yes,
diaspora there. None of them knew Kashmiri.
but
They were
they
all old Kashmiris. They were basically from the 18th century,
migration.
migrants from 18th century who had settled there. They were obviously intellectually in the upper crust of what India now calls as the creamy layer. They were the creamy layer of the society in Banaras, and including the registrar of the Banaras University, who was a Kashmiri Pandit Dar. Again, one of the important elements was to get in touch with him after you arrived in Banaras.
Okay.
And he actually would really treat you like you have really come as a God's gift to him. I mean, he would every one of each one of the students, whether it's a boy or a girl, he would treat them like they are God's gift that have been sent to Banaras. And he would assign a mentor among all the Kashmiri diaspora that was already existing there. So he was kind of the big dada of the place, and everybody around him. And his place was he had a huge, because being the registrar, he had a huge house in the campus, and it was filled up with Kashmiri artifacts.
Oh my
You could
God.
not walk literally 5 inches without hitting one. It was a maze to go around any of his rooms. I don't know how his rooms were upstairs in the bedroom side, but all the downstairs rooms, they were filled with Kashmiri artifacts. So we never felt in that sense a degree of that loneliness that comes. If anything, we found everybody who had come with me or before me, a few years before me, because we'd all meet at various occasions at his house. So Kashmiri Pandits who were recent, arrivals from the student class would all meet, and so we all knew each other. And actually, one of my best friends coming out to me at that time, the boy who was from, I'm not name him and all that, because I want to do it, but the fact is, his father was a big senior government official in the government,
Okay, sir.
and he and I he was in civil engineering, which I can understand why his father sent him to civil engineering at that time, and I was actually I was translated to mechanical engineering, and but we were good friends. We had different hostels. but we would always meet. And one of the things we did together was go and see the movies. In our time in Kashmir, there were three cinema halls. I think people all know that. But more importantly, the movies would come like 6 months to 9 months after they were released in the rest of India, including in Jammu.
Yes, same was in Jammu as well.
But in Banaras, they used to be generally released a couple of days ahead of the national release. So we had to see, he and I, we had to see the first day, first show, cover May. And sometimes, my memories are we used to have monsoons. There is this guy in a rickshaw paddling his best, and poor fellow is not being able to go through the water that is in the streets. And there is us sometimes pushing the rickshaw also so that we can get out of the street. But we had to go and see the movie. There was
Those
no
are the
way
great
that's
college
something we
days.
would find.
You
It
want to
was
see.
it was a must
I remember there was one very big fan of Devanand in Jammu, student. He had a motorcycle, and when Desh Pardesh was released, it didn't come in Jammu. It came somewhere Jalandhar or some Patiala. He drove all the way from Jammu to Patiala to that cinema to witness that first day first show. At that first day first show was a great craze.
Yeah, so that was us. I was part of that. And
So
the funny thing was in Banaras they used to have these late shows on things like Shivratri, Diwali, and all that. And it was almost a custom. These are shows which are right after midnight.
off the bit.
And it was a custom that half of the people would be drunk in that theater, and they would tear apart the place. And you would think that tomorrow there would be some action or there would be something that this theater wala has complained. No, he would just fix those things, and he knew this is a ritual that
Part
it
of the
will
ritual and routine.
it will go through, and it will happen. And this is his loyal customer client class, so he is not going to upset them. So it was very unusual.
And then, Dr. Sazawal, you then had finally landed into the United States of America and for your post graduation in engineering, and then you also did your doctoral, degree from there. Probably in 1975. I'm not exactly accurately. I don't remember now. I've read it. And tell us something about this new land of aspirations, the challenges, and how did it inspire you? Was it
Well,
aspiring?
my story actually begins in India itself because I was after BHU, I went to Bhopal, and Bhopal had no. Actually, there is an interesting story in between. My best friend in the school was a gentleman named Ashok Ambardar.
Okay.
Ashok Ambardar's grandfather was Lambu Darji Ambardar. Lambu Darji was one time Wazir Wazir in the last administration of Maharaja Hari Singh. So they had this beautifully designed house by a British architect near Exchange Road. And since he and I were lifelong friends, which by the way still continues today, he's also in the United States, and so we have known each
Probably
other.
he has written he has written a book.
No, this gentleman is not. He's a nuclear. I'm sorry. He's a biological scientist too, and he
Oh.
retired as a professor of electrical engineering. He's totally non-political, and he is so he and I have known each other almost 60 years. And anyway, I had hoped that I would join IIT Delhi undergraduate degree, but because of the fact that I got stuck because thinking I would go to Kashmir, because which is what my grandmother and my uncle and everybody wanted me to go, and it didn't happen. So I went to Banaras. But then it was decided that for the masters I'll go to IIT Delhi. But my friend Ashok, he had already graduated from IIT. He said, I'm going to go to the next school, which is challenging, which is in ISC Bangalore, which is Indian Institute of Science Bangalore, which is actually, in my opinion, even today, probably the best engineering school in India, even better than IIT. So I also applied to Bangalore. I also applied to Delhi. He received admission from both. And I received admission only from IIT Delhi. So I went to
That's
IIT Delhi, and when I went to IIT
interesting.
Delhi, but I couldn't adjust to the IIT environment because at BHU we were kind of like it was like almost those days like a British, Cambridge University style. It had similar layout of hostel. There was discussion on social programs in the evenings. They used to have guests, visitors coming in to give lectures on different issues of the society and all that. And so there was a high social interaction,
Social interaction,
and
extracurricular.
that was missing totally in IIT Delhi. Nobody knew even anybody's name. I didn't know my next door who was living. I was living in
Princely.
Shivalik Hostel, and I didn't even know the name of the guy next door to me. So I went to this next door just to make friends. I said, "Do you have a magazine?" I will not tell you which magazine, but do you have a magazine? He said, "What is that?" And he didn't even know the name of the that such and such. I mean, he said, "You're wasting your time." Anyway, after a few months, I decided that I didn't want to live there. I didn't want to stay study. So I wrote to my father. I had to get a lot of courage to tell him that I don't want to be in IIT Delhi. And you know what he said, okay, if you don't, that's fine. Which kind of surprised me. I was not expecting that kind of an answer from him because everybody in the family, especially from my Matamal side, who by the way lived near Shitalan,
Oh, okay. What was the
they said this
family
boy
family name?
Badams.
Family caste?
Badam. My grandfather, my mamaji, everybody, they said this boy is destroying his career. Nobody leaves IIT
No one leaves
after getting
that.
selected in
Even
IIT.
today, even now, nobody will ever dream of.
And so, but there it is. Now, I'll finish the story of my father first. Only a few years before, he came to Delhi after 1990, after he came to Delhi. Then, in one of the conversations with me, he told me that the reason I have one thing to unburden myself, which I have not told you so far. I said, what is that? He said, you had received admission from IISc Bangalore also. But I chose not to tell you that because I didn't want you to go to Bangalore. But look at God's karma. God was so upset with me that He sent you to America. He punished me with even a greater, thing. Now you have to remember the background of it, Jugalji, is that I am the only biological child of my parents.
No.
So he said, I couldn't stop you from going to America because I thought that was the punishment that I had received because I didn't tell you that you had received admission from ISC Bangalore. So that was an interesting aspect of life there. But it's funny because many years later, after that, I would ask my Mamaji, do you still feel I destroyed my career after leaving IIT? Anyway,
So you were
after
talking about
after that, I went to Bhopal, and in Bhopal, I met a professor from America, and he took a liking to me. It was very funny because I was not the brightest student in there, but he could understand my English the best. So he got closer to me because he would tell me, "Can you come here and tell me what this boy is trying to tell me?" And after I finished that, then he said, Vijay, you have to come to America. I said, that thought has not even occurred in my mind. He said, why? He said, because I am the only child of my parents. They will never, ever allow me, to go there or anything like that. He said, well, I will write a letter to them. I'll promise them. I said, oh, it's more than that. What will I, because we are not rich people. We will not be able to afford the education.
fee.
So how do you propose I pay for it? He said, you know what? I am the dean of engineering. I will give you a teaching assistantship from day one, which we don't do normally.
Oh,
But because your English is so good, you should be able to teach as an assistant to a instructor or something like that. So I'll give you a teaching assistantship from day one. So that will take care of you. And I'll write a letter to my father. And he actually did. So that is how I ended up in America. So it was never a plan. I didn't even, people don't believe it, but I didn't even fill up TOEFL or anything like that. I didn't fill any of those forms for testing of English language and all that. I didn't even have an I-20 proper. I had already sort of received the admission, and all the paperwork was done by the school, by the Green College here, and that's how I ended up in America.
So, so how was
So
the?
it,
We'll just go through a very brief summary of America. Your days in America, the land of aspirations. How did it change you, and what were the who were the natives around? Indian and Kashmiri natives, and
well,
how was the life? Yeah.
when I came here, quite frankly, there was none in the school that I was studying at
Okay.
in Tech. And even otherwise there were very few. The closest was my friend. Uh, he is Ravindra Kav. He was in Market, Michigan. But it was not something that you could see. I mean, at that time, to call India or to call Kashmir, you have to go through a process in which you dial the local number, and then the number will tell you we'll connect you to Delhi, but we can't tell you when. It can be at 3 o'clock in the night. It can be 8 o'clock in the morning. And so then they would finally they would get Delhi. Then Delhi would say, please hold on the line. Now I'm going to try Srinagar. And so you could not really be assured of any phone calls or anything like that. So the only way of contact was through letters,
Oh.
which would take about 10 days going in, going out. So if people, young people coming these days have no idea the kind of, so there was a large degree of isolation actually, because there were not that many of us to begin with. And so then when I once I so I was pretty, it's funny because the Bangladesh war took place those days. My father writes in a letter, Indira Gandhi had come to United States. Did you see her on TV? Well, I couldn't tell her that I didn't even have a TV at that time. But I had no knowledge of she had come or she had not. So we were totally isolated. It was nothing like what you see today. And then I got a job in '74 with a company, and they said, I told them I don't know how I'll be able to do it because I don't have any visa or something like that. Again, another divine intervention came in. The divine intervention was this company said, we'll take care of all those things. I said, well, I have one more problem. He said, they said, what? I said, I have to go to India to tell my parents that I have to stay here for longer than they said, okay, we'll give you a letter which is open 1 year, 1 year employment, open employment. You go and enjoy yourself there, come back and join. So I actually went for 3-4 months to Valley and convinced my parents that I should stay in America for a few more years.
Few more years,
So
and
that's how it started. So quite frankly, I was living. I mean, we had a few friends which were from our, whom we knew, who we knew back home as part of our extended family type thing. But these were like 5 or 10,
okay.
and they were not. Anybody was not. The closest Kashmiri Pandit to me was 60 miles, which is about 100 kilometers away. So it wasn't like you could see him every day. But nevertheless, we had those friendships, and I'm glad those friendships are still alive, and we're all growing old, but still around. But the fact of the matter is, until this event didn't happen in '89, '90, I wasn't really conscious of Indian politics or Indian design or even American politics. Further, I had begun involvement in American politics as part of my profession because I was now getting into the negotiations on foreign policy matters and things like that as part of my profession. So I had already started meeting with the senior State Department officials and embassy officials in Europe and Eastern Europe, like Russia, Ukraine, elsewhere. But as far as I was concerned about India, it was just a blank slate. Then we started getting messages. We started getting these letters. I got many letters. I still have them, where
Okay.
people are saying, sir, we are. Nobody's talking about us in India. We have been thrown out. We are living in these horrible conditions in Jammu. Those tents were rotting. People are dying. The heat, scorpion bites. Snake bites.
Doctor Saab, we'll come to that
But the point is,
after.
that is when I became aware of
political. No,
Okay,
what I
okay.
was asking was about America as a land of, as Ayn Rand used to say, the America is a
Well,
land of
America,
opportunities, land of
America,
possibilities.
yeah,
So you
America
were from
obviously,
Kashmir. How was it to
I
you?
did,
Yeah.
as you can see, I did very well. I did very well. So I have never felt in my life I was discriminated. Somebody didn't give me an opportunity because I was not of the right color. Uh, I don't have any such experience. I was treated with courtesy. Everybody knew that I had a smart brain, and everybody wanted to be my friend.
Okay.
To me, this was not just a land of opportunity, but it was really land of dreams in that sense. Now, I'll correct myself quickly, though I will not dwell on it right now. I don't think of this country the same way today as I did then, by the way.
Oh, what is the
Today, the
difference?
country has changed. Country has changed dramatically. But those days, those days you could literally leave your doors open. I never, when we were in Michigan or we were in Pennsylvania, we never used to lock the door. I mean, there was no question of anybody, committing
Robberies,
robbery
or
or
yeah.
murder. There was hardly any crime in this country. And so it was a very different country. It was a lot of respect. I had, my experiences were that pretty much you work hard, you are going to get rewarded, and it's independent of your color, your creed, your anything like that. Now, in that process, you can argue, how did I see the blacks? Well, the truth of the matter is, I didn't see them at all. I mean, in sense, not physically see them. In other words, they were not in the in the line of activities that I was dealing with. So you could argue on behalf of them and say that we were indistinguishable because you were not in the universe that you were operating in, because we were not getting the opportunities to be in the universe that you were operating. And today I would probably agree with them.
Yes.
Wherever we lived, there was not a single black guy anywhere around. Literally, there was no black guy around. And as I said, whites never discriminated against us. We were just like any other white family.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
So for us, it was definitely a country of opportunity, country of dreams. I got like promotions, which sometimes would actually surprise a lot of white people, that companies would give me those responsibilities. I mean, one of the irony was, I'm in a certain discussion in Russia. It's in the Barents Sea, which is on the northern end near Scandinavian border. It's a Arctic Circle. We are
Arctic Circle.
dismantling the Russian. We are dismantling the Russian SS submarine, SS-19 submarines. I am a part of the delegation,
Okay.
which is actually a French delegation, because I'm a member of the French company at that time. I was working for a French company. And our associates are American company, Lockheed Martin from here, and then in Russia, Russian Federation. So the Russian minister says, actually pointed to me, here is a guy who is from India with an American passport, working for the French company. And
That
then
was
it
a
was
kind of a surprise for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of the thing. I have a couple of I'll show you. Here is I don't know if you're
Yeah. I can see it. Yeah. It's
the
in
Russian.
Russian.
My name in Russian.
Yeah. Your name in Russian and English too, Dr. Vijay
Yeah,
Sazawal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And here's my name in Chinese.
It's Chinese. Yeah, I can see it.
So
She
it's just
came language. Actually, was I'm came either you go Chinese.
so the point I'm trying to make is, uh, for me, the globe was endless. It was without borders.
It could have
And
not been. It could not have been the same while you have been back home in Kashmir
no,
or in
actually,
India.
I have even a story about that, but maybe we can see if we can talk about it later.
Yeah. So we'll come to those things. But Dr. Saab, this is a very wonderful, very I mean, spectacular journey you had. Journey of challenges, journey of wonder. That's what life is all about, exploration. As Tagore said that we were all in the web of fear in 18th century, and slowly, gradually, we started coming out of this web. So this web was, there were many reasons, socio-political, foreigners, travelers. But before we begin and talk about your book, the wonderful book, which is compilation of your wonderful articles, especially on Kashmir, specialist articles, and your interaction with a wide score of people. But before that, I'll first of all come to 1990, that horrendous mass exodus which happened, and your role in that imbroglio. And I'll have some straight questions. You were part of preparing the strategy document for Pan Kashmir on 10th May 1993, when you served as the first overseas coordinator for that. Why did you resign in 1996? Why didn't your resolution dream work despite of 33 years? Just a wider, broad, curious question.
And I'll try to be as fair as possible.
Yeah.
The reality is, we were, as the international coordinator. I was both the president and the international coordinator, matter for strategy. So we went to Jammu
Okay.
to find the sentiment of the people. I'm talking about post 1990, and it was very clear. Well, there are multiple organizations like Delhi, the Samiti, what's it called? Which was
Kashmiri, this what?
Sabha, Kashmiri Pandit Sabha, KPS,
Kashmiri Pandit Sabha, yes.
Sabha, and there was ASKP3, all Kashmiri
All
Conference,
Kashmiri Pandit
all Jammu Kashmir
conference.
Conference. The fact is, they were kind of all out of whack. They were not really, they didn't know what to do other than to get together and raise. We saw only one group we saw which had a lot of passion, lot of you could put the people on the ground, you could call the people, come out and protest and do that. So we felt that Jammu Kashmir had sort of created a rhythm in people's hearts, which
Yes.
was very much to the liking of the people. And as a political analyst, it's not to me that it's not even important what the message is. It is what's more important is that there is a message that actually can get people out on the street. So more than the message, it is the fact that that message has the power to get. Because then, as a strategist, my job is to see how do I harness that energy, how do I harness that passion to get in the direction that I want to take it. That is best for the people. Knowing, because there are some underlying characteristics there. You have to know the polity of India. If you don't know the polity of India, or if you don't learn about the polity of India, there is no way you can open your heart and give out whatever is in your wish list of your
No
heart.
bias, no bias to your strategies.
Not only by externality, then because that then tells you know the framework, the dimensions, the assumptions under which you have to operate. So that's
Yes.
very important to the success of a strategy. You have to know the boundaries in which you can
You have to
but as I
ascertain.
said,
Yeah.
at that time, the question was not whether the message was within those boundaries. The message was that, or the attempt was that there is a message that gets people out with the passion and force. So the challenge is, how do we harness that to fit the boundaries that are constraining within the quality of India. So my message to these guys was, we have to now turn this into a sort of force of action. And I told them that this can only be done now, because once the government, when the civilian government comes back to power, many of the liberties that you have right now, they will be immediately curtailed. You are right now under governor's rule. which gives you a lot strong and a very sympathetic governance view, which gives you a lot of leeway which you will not get later. So then we invited them to United States because I wanted them to meet with the people so that we don't. And then that's when we asked for this paper, and they promised we will follow the paper, we'll do the everything. And obviously, it required money to be given to them. So
Yes, certainly.
we
Without
gave money also. And then what do we find? We find they basically did a couple of things here and there, but the key thing was they were supposed to be registering for a political organization. That was key because you cannot operate within the norms of the Indian polity without having a political party. You cannot. And certainly you get this message back, no, 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 we are not a political, we have no desire to be a political party. We are just a social conscience, movement of social conscience.
well,
And
your cause is political.
there, right then and there, and then of course we went to do a micro analysis of why they are doing it, because part of that would have required them then to give hand over the positions of presidency and all that to non-government personnel, or they would have to retire from their government job
Okay.
to take up those positions. Because you cannot be in the government job and be president of a political
No, after you
organization.
retire, you can do anything. After you retire.
You see, they were not willing to do that. They were not willing to give up their government job.
Oh, sir. Oh, sir. That's true.
So,
That must be the truth. Yeah.
well, I don't want to go into the details of how kind of those kind of discussions took place, but there were tremendous discussions in that area also. But bottom line is, I'm making it very easy and simple for the people who are listening to you. They didn't want to give up the government, and so by the time I realized they really were not interested in the success of this movement. They were really not, because to them it was very simple, almost like Hurriyat said. Hurriyat's role was, give us independence.
Mhm.
And in fact, when some British observers came in, they said even one day that Hurriyat is living under the illusion that they will get up Sunday morning and India will offer them independent Kashmir on a platter. And to be honest, Kashmiri Pandits who believed in this movement also at the leadership level also felt the same way. That somehow Indian government is going to wake up in the morning and give them this
Territory.
Kashmir.
A territory in a
You
plateau.
have to work within the politics. So my point was, this is an aspirational goal. Just like in those days, BJP had an aspirational goal of removing Article 370. But they didn't say we are not going to participate in politics unless you don't give us the Article 370.
You have to pass through. You have to pass through all kind of tests and
You have
hardships.
to have an aspirational goal, and then you have to be part of the political play. If you are not part of the political play, then you are sitting outside. You can issue memorandums. But that's what I found out. I found out, quite frankly, their own personal aspirational goals were simply to be in the news.
But Doctor, Saab, I put you this question other way also informally. You will reply. I know you will reply the same way. A political existence in democracy depends upon your consciency. Our consciency is very minuscule, and that too indifferent with each other.
Yeah, but the fact is, if you want to make a dent in anywhere, you have to be a registered political party. I'll go back to the discussion which Amit Shah had with some people recently. Recently means just before the 2019 event, where he told them Kashmiri Pandits don't vote,
Yes.
and he was telling them, it is not important that you actually win anything. He said, look at Muslims. He gave the example. So look at Muslims in most of the states in India. They vote even though they know their candidate is not going to win. Because you have to have a political footprint, even though no matter how small it is. You have to have a political footprint to claim the political benefits. You cannot get political benefits without establishing a political footprint, no matter how small it is. So whether that would have made any difference or not, the fact is, by not doing anything, they basically denied themselves the entitlement of having a political footprint. And 96 is crucial because the moment the elections were announced, I told myself, whatever leeway they had, it's gone, and so it's time for me to.
So you moved out. And
So I moved.
now this draft resolution, which you are part of about this Margdarshan, and how relevant it is. Just a brief note. How relevant it is after 33 years.
Well, the basic steps are the same. The problem, of course, is now the challenge is much more. I mean, at that time, our population in the valley was roughly around 350,000 or Sade Teen lakh. Today our population is somewhere in the ballpark of 10 to 12,000.
In
And,
valley,
and,
in the valley.
let me tell you another experiment I did recently, about 6 months back. I convinced the Kashmiri Pandit leaders of the various political parties. के सबके minority cells हैं, like National Conference is a minority cell.
Yeah, every party has a
PDP,
minority cell. Yeah.
So I contacted them, and I basically told them, why don't you all together sign a document which is addressed to your presidents of your respective political parties, and tell them designate some constituencies for Kashmiri Pandits, so that even though we don't know which Kashmiri Pandit will win, but we at least know one Kashmiri Pandit will win. Because all parties, when I said all parties, I didn't involve BJP. This primarily PDP, National Conference, Azad's party, and Congress. So I said nominate a KP and for designated play like Tabakadil or something like that. Then we know for certain there will be a KP.
Reserved constituency for KP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it will become a de facto reserved constituency. But at least try.
Yeah.
And they all said yes. And then nothing happened. So I called a couple of those people later, after about and two of them said conclusively, same answer, and that they were from two different political parties. The boss told them, come in the valley, sit in the valley, converse in the valley, and then I will designate a seat for you.
Ah.
And
I think
that-
we could.
and two parties said that. And two party heads said that. And I believe that was a genuine, that was a good answer from their perspective. And so Kashmiri Pandits have to make a choice. They can't be sitting in Jammu and saying we want our rights.
Will participate in that. But I think it was the stature of the tallest stature of Sheikh Sahab, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah. He could have done it. But I don't think present political dispensation, which is forcefully, otherwise or naturally gone into the polarized structure, it is possible for them to give some political reservation, some seat reservation for
Well,
Kashmir.
they will obviously they will be they will be assessing their own strategies on what they will not do.
How do
The
it?
fact is, even BJP today is BJP leadership in Delhi. I'm in touch with them at very senior level.
Right. I know
Even
that.
they are very unhappy with Kashmiri Pandit.
Everybody is unhappy with Kashmiri Pandits.
And I will tell you, there is a problem. Kashmiri Pandits are well-meaning, peace-loving people.
Intellectuals.
But they have a problem. They choose their leaders who are horrible, who are mediocre to the most. And you are being punished. You as a ordinary Kashmiri Pandit are being punished because you are allowing the quality of leadership which exists right now with you.
But Dr.
So and
Dr.
that is BJP also. By the way, I'm putting BJP in that leadership.
BJP is lower. BJP Kashmiri Pandit leadership is very low, very lower.
So the leadership is an issue, and Kashmiri Pandits, it's almost the same way you can say, like Hamas. I mean, ordinary Palestinians are suffering.
Yes.
But they don't have the courage. Anybody has the courage to say, I hate this guy, this leader. He created this problem for me. Why did he go on afterwards to rape and pillage these Jews? But same thing, Kashmiri Pandits don't have the courage to throw them out.
Yeah. But in the time, Dr. Saab, in the times when we had the best possible leadership like Shivnarayan Photedar, this what you call it, the reformist, that famous Kashyap Bandhuji, we had the great leaders like them, selfless, and they had a vision, they had an approach to the central. Even Shivnarayan Photedar could directly go to the Nehruji and he had the contacts. At that point of time, people, general Kashmiris didn't accept them as their leaders. That's also the point.
No, there's a reason for that also. I mean, the reason is, by and large, uh, especially the people who left the valley and went to Delhi, by and large, they mostly did not stay interested in what was happening in the valley. And so while they were doing very good themselves in Delhi, they never actually had a chance to look back at what was going on in the valley. And I always wondered about it. There's an article about that also in the book. I always wondered about that when I was growing up. Why aren't people in Delhi, we had Aksars and Kauls and Kohls and all that. And then I realized only this new migration where I found out the people who have already left in Delhi and all that very rarely care for who's left in the valley. How are they doing their life?
So we are a self-oriented community. I think
So,
Kashmiri
I think
at large,
we have a
yeah.
problem. So as much as we have, I mean, as long as you stay as a reform-minded person, you are all right. But the moment you do get into politics, you are not going to be treated well by the community. The community has a different way of thinking, and
It's a
so
it's a it's a chronic
it's very
inherited disease.
it's very difficult for a Kashmiri Pandit to understand that many of their problems come because they don't really. See, they think they have their problems are because they're not united. But I will tell you, nobody in India is united. Nobody in the
No
world
one in
is
India.
united.
Yeah,
No,
that's true.
anybody is united. I mean, even today you can see in Israel there are people denouncing Netanyahu as much as they love it. I mean, this kind of thing is everywhere. There is no unity. But it is the leadership, the quality of the leadership, the ability of that leadership to take those hits, and that decides whether or not it'll be all right or not. I don't mind telling you, as much as BJP is upset with the Kashmiris. I think Mr. Modi is a great leader, and he actually is he has all the qualifications that make him a great leader.
He is the greatest, one of the greatest in this decade, in this era. Yeah.
And so Kashmiri Pandits need a good leader. That's our sad situation that has not come out.
Yet I am very thankful that he has made one foreign secretary has been elevated to the level of there's a foreign Kashmiri Pandit foreign secretary, Misri Saab.
The foreign secretary is Vikram. Vikram.
Vikram Misri Saab. And finally, Modi was happy to install him. And somewhere down the line,
Vikram, you have to know, Vikram has absolutely
experience.
fantastic background. I have the pleasure of knowing him for a long time.
Oh. But then again, I mean, it's a matter of pride for us. We have to. Yeah.
No, because I think he didn't pick him because he's a Kashmiri Pandit.
No, not because of that. Not because
He
of that.
picked him because of his varied experience.
Qualities and
That is because he has worked in so many different senior level positions, whether it was as a deputy national security advisor,
national security advisor, he was.
whether it was a principal
China and other policies,
yeah,
diplomat.
he has been at many.
But Dr. Saab, it was also with the Kashmiri syndrome, which we call, they were not there because on the mercy of Indiraji, they were there because of their own capabilities. T.N. Koul, P.N. Huxer, they had tremendous capabilities.
They had tremendous capability.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Dr. Saab, how will we?
What I find painful is that they didn't spend enough time going to Kashmir and understanding the issues of Kashmiri Pandits and then promising them something that they would.
Yeah, they should have done that. But I would Sheikh Saab would have not resisted. I personally feel he would have not resisted to any idea, any political dimension which would have helped us to have our legacy back. Anyway, I'll just move ahead. I have some two typical assertions. I don't know how will you react to it, Dr. Saab. One is that, there is a saying, rather I also say many times, Kashmir now. Let's talk about wider Kashmir, the complete Kashmir. Kashmir now has become a flourishing carrier career hub for everyone across the world. One assertion. Another assertion is that Ghulam Nabi Azad said as he became the chief minister, he said that there are more international players to Kashmir than the local actors. So how do you just think about these two connotations?
Sure. I think the first one is kind of getting worn down in the sense we had a lot of think tanks, in, for example, America, who used to specialize on Kashmir matters. But quite honestly, after Modi ji came in and they saw a see you have to understand the reasons why that ambiguity existed was because India itself was ambiguous about its relationship with Kashmir. I mean, the fact you would actually allow anti-national organizations to prosper, the fact that you would allow a terrorist like this JKLF Yasin Malik
To
to
flourish.
travel around, including the United States,
Keep
and
an alternate channel. Keep an alternate channel open.
not just by Congress Prime Minister, but also by the BJP Prime Minister. Twice he came to the United States. And these ambiguities basically gave a feeling in the West that India really was looking for an accommodation with Pakistan. And so these think tanks came up on board because they certainly saw there's a role for them, for their glory, for their doctoral theses, for their students, for their. So you created an industry of sorts because India had knowledge by having the presence of Hurriyat, which openly said they don't accept the Constitution of India and Kashmir. They created that feeling that India did need help, and they were willing to do that help, whether India wanted it or not. So there was that. But I will tell you this: as soon as Modi ji came, I think there was a feeling that we better start looking for a different job, and they still hung around for a little while. And one of the interesting things in Washington is where are all those even the Indian Americans who were involved in this business because they all would also capitalize on it. Because there's nothing better than to see a Indian American criticizing India. I mean, that Americans allow that. To them, that's an authentic Indian American. He criticizes India. So, first of all, they were the ones who jumped the ship because they knew Modi is going to be different. Because Americans are still trying to figure out who is Modi. For all I know, from their perspective, Modi was somebody who was denied a visa, and then eventually, they had to give him a visa because he became the prime minister. So they jumped the ship. But then after the 2019, rest of them have jumped the ship. So Kashmir now is not anymore on the screen. You literally cannot beg anybody today to have a program on Kashmir in the United States.
They are fed up with it. Monotonous.
No, this is a Pakistan is still trying to find a space. I mean, they tried with this genocide of Muslims and things like that. They're still trying some space. But it's not working. But
I think our Modi ji and our foreign minister are doing their. I mean, they are the best possible. Our foreign minister is the best possible.
So we'll see.
Diplomacy is on.
On the second side. Your second point was about what Mr. Azad said.
International players than the local actors.
I have actually great respect for Mr. Azad. I think among all the Kashmiri leaders right now, he is the most nationalist. He really believes in his heart. He is an Indian. Rest of them are, with all this caveat. I saw other day a speech by Mr.
They are nationalists, but when it comes to they defy it.
Rasulullah Mir saying that we gave blood for India and now India. I would like to ask him, when have you ever gone to some Jawan's house who shed his blood for India in Kashmir? I mean, these guys are all speaking nonsense. But the fact of the matter is, Azad Sahab is actually probably the only one who deserves.
He risen to the ranks and a very well-developed politician.
Who also has accepted or admitted in public that Kashmiris, there's something weird in them. They would rather not think about progress They would rather not think about modernism. They keep hanging
Yes.
still on to the fact that Sheikh Saab gave them the dignity. And he feels very strongly that was then, when this is now, and Kashmiris better wake up and join the 21st century, which they are still refusing to do because they have these leaders, unfortunate leaders in both National Conference, in PDP, elsewhere, that are basically trying to keep them, keep their feet tied to the past when they should be actually looking at the future and all that. My own feeling is, if these political parties actually make it through the state assembly elections, I think people will find out within 3, 4, 5 years that these guys are not the ones that they really have. That's where their future is.
Yeah,
But
but
you've got to give them that.
why does the other constituency go? Like you say, if NC is not there, then the hard radicals they come in. Like you should you've
Hard
seen the recent,
radicals, hard radicals like Jamaat want to be part of the process today.
and they want to be processed, and they are not liberal by heart, by
No, no,
temperament.
that's the thing. They are looking for the land of opportunity just the same way as NC and PDP is. So there is no difference today between NC, PDP, or Jamaat, quite honestly. It's all in semantics. And what they are doing is they are basically postponing
Nahi,
the statehood.
Dr. Saab,
They're postponing the statehood.
as a grassroots man, their politics maybe it may not be a difference, but when NC comes to power, or for that matter, this PDP comes to power, their administration is secular. Their relationship with the people is secular. But when
As I tell, I'm an analyst. You
yes,
you
yes.
have given me an emotional reply. It's not born by the ground.
Okay,
They are,
that's
they are
true.
not who they are. They have the capacity to say, well, let me tell you, in my book, if you read in my book,
We're coming down, Doctor, we're coming down to your book
no,
now.
because I will tell you, even the most dreaded man, Sayyid Ali Shah Jilani, there is not a more pro-Kashmiri Pandit leader has been in the last 20 years before he died than Sayyid Ali Shah Jilani. And the book will tell you all the data that I have which proves it.
I mean, you mean to say, kindly elaborate.
Aha, now you are taken my Ali Shah Jilani, when he took over the Tehreek-e-Hurriyat. And there's a story there why he split from Hurriyat and all that became sorry, but I'll not get into that. But the fact is, at that time, he told his cadre, I don't want to see a single Kashmiri Pandit killed here as a target of killing.
I don't want to see
And
that.
I know of instances because, you see, as I told you, Jugalji, I have been in touch with Kashmiri Pandits in the valley, the 808 families. The book is dedicated to the 808 families that
Yes.
never left the valley.
Chronicles, the Kashmir Chronicles is a wonderful book, I must tell you, and Dr. Saab has written it. It's a very extensive, exhaustive book, and it tells about the ground reality, sections of governance, interactions with the common masses, and it is on the basic as an analyst, not as an emotional politician. It's a wonderful book. It should be read by everyone. Yeah,
So let me
please.
finish that. So what there were times when these families felt threatened, and some of them reached out to me, and I immediately told them, send a word to Mr. Jilani, and I had some names of his assistants and all that, and they would call that, and certainly those guys would disappear from outside their houses.
Because probably they had this. They had.
And you will notice that there were no targeted killings of Kashmiri Pandits when he was the head of the Jamaat Islam Hurriyat. And the first killing, which was Ajay Panta, that took place. He had already left the thing, and he was basically dying at that time. And so there were a lot of people waiting in the line. Now, I'm not giving you a clearance that Jamaat Islami organization was like that. I'm just saying Ali Shah Jilani,
Ali Shah
who
Jilani.
was the final arbiter of life and death of politicians in Kashmir based on information from Pakistan, closely tied to Pakistan.
He was a Pakistani planted person. Yeah.
Yeah, but had this feeling that Kashmiri Pandit, killing Kashmiri Pandit was not going to give him any positive,
Achuna,
anything.
achuna, Kashir Patin chuna kahavat ak. There is an adage in Kashmiri, sir. Suras gur hawal karun. Suras gur hawal karun. I don't know.
Exactly. Yes,
So
yes, yes.
the person who is a spoiler, you give him that he will protect you.
You protect.
So that's
Exactly.
very sad that
That is sad.
after 70 years we still are banking on these such kind
Yeah,
of.
but
Yeah.
the truth is, he was not. I would not say he was a very noble man or anything like
No,
that.
not
But
normal.
I
He
will give
did.
him this credit.
He was against the
He
nation,
has
against the
saved
country.
Kashmiri
Yeah.
Pandits, these 808 families which are still in the valley.
Dr. Saab, we'll talk about a bit about your nuclear industry professional. Let's know more about the career contribution. You are a veteran who Indo-US relation is appreciable. And could you elucidate about some of the aspects, especially as a nuclear policy analyst?
Yeah, I mean, many of what I did was is classified. What I can't discuss it, but I will tell in general terms. I will start by saying I didn't know. By which did you see Jugalji a film called nuclear film called Oppenheimer?
No, I haven't seen. I haven't seen.
Okay,
I
it's a
haven't
hit. It was a hit last year. In fact, it was the first movie that opened up INOX Srinagar when the INOX theater opened up in Srinagar. That was the first movie they showed. The Oppenheimer, Dr. Oppenheimer. Dr. Oppenheimer was the father of the atomic bomb.
Oh,
My point was that the security clearance that he had, the grade of the security clearance that he had, was exactly the same that I had, which is the highest you can get because you are dealing with the American nuclear secrets. But part of my job was actually to negotiate with various governments of Eastern Europe after the fall of Soviet Union, how to get their nuclear assets in a safe situation, in a safe condition. Part of that was dismantling their nuclear weapons, and part of it was basically upgrading their civil reactors, their nuclear reactors. Essentially, they get the safety in this. So, as part of that discussion, I used to constantly be, in touch with White House, in touch with State Department, in touch with the embassies we had in those countries, including India, for that matter. Because India, I came last. It was the Indo-US nuclear agreement, and I was co-opted in it because they knew that I had an Indian background. So a lot of that discussion was on diplomatic level.
right, sir.
But the idea was we were trying to ensure that materials that are nuclear materials that are in Soviet Union after its breakup do not fall in wrong hands. So I was involved in that effort after that. Before that, which is before 1990. I was involved in something called Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI. In SDI, we were trying to essentially place weapon systems in the space. So my job was on the area of nuclear power, which will drive that weapon system in the space. Obviously, it had to be small, and the size of it I can give out now. It was classified at one time, but I can give it out now. It was almost like a 55-gallon oil drum. Nothing with oil drum.
Yeah.
That is the size of the nuclear reactor that we were designing to put on the space so that it can zap the Soviet missiles and things like that. So I was involved in what's called SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative. Before that, I was involved in some of the reactors where we were building the ingredients for hydrogen bombs and things like that. So, but that stopped because we don't build any bombs. The United States doesn't build any new bombs anymore. And so that activity stopped. So a lot of activities in that.
A lot of work. I see it's a very huge body of work and the great work you have done, and you have proved us all native Kashmiris proud. Yeah.
Jugalji, part of the problem was I couldn't tell even my wife and children what I was doing. or why
Yes, I wanted to ask you about your wife. You have written it in your biodata somewhere that you didn't pick up while you was in US. You like Fodera Saab, you didn't pick up an American wife. You married back home
no,
and you picked.
I actually that was a condition that my parents actually I got married before actually I left, and actually my wife joined me after 6 months. And there's a story there.
Please tell. Please tell.
We were leaving. We could only take $5 with us.
Oh,
India would
five.
not give India would not give you more than $5 in foreign currency. So I requested $200. Was it 200 or 300? I don't remember. It was 200 or 300. Maybe it was $300. And they said, we can't give it to you. Now, again, I didn't have any relatives, any well connected who could probably put corruption money, whatever. Then it hit me because somebody told me that. They tell them that you are getting married and your wife will not come until you don't get back that $300 back to India. It didn't matter to whom you sent it back, but you have to send $300 back to India.
Back
So
to
you were
India.
getting $300 from India. So what they did is they said, okay, you get married, you get her a passport, and we'll put that entry on her passport. That she cannot leave the country until she doesn't show a verification that Reserve Bank has accepted $300 in her name in India. So that's what she had to do. So she had to stay in India until I was able to save $300. Now remember, my salary as a teaching assistant, remember I told you was $2,550 a year.
Oh.
So it was $238 a month.
This Kashinath Pandita told me that when he went to Iran for scholarship PhD, he was only $1 was allowed by Indian authorities. $1. So it was only a travel of $1. Yeah. Your wife is basically a native from Kashmir. Hello.
How much was allowed? How much?
$1. $1. I have written $1 story. That's my program and my podcast.
Okay.
Okay. $1 story.
I believe it.
$1.
Because it was $5. It was $5 in 1970.
And I wanted to know more about your better half, about a bit of description.
Well,
She can.
I mean, she's a very private person, so I'm not going to, say much. But the fact is that she did her master's in economics from
Okay.
Jammu University,
Right, sir.
and decided on coming here that she was, going to be. Basically, we had our first child after 3 years of marriage,
Okay.
and she decided that she was going to basically spend her time being a mother. And she has been a wonderful mother to our 3 children.
She
That's
attributes to your
really
success story.
true because, as I said, I was traveling. Incredible. I was traveling hours that you can believe, and I couldn't tell them where I was going, what I was doing, and that sort of thing. But that's how unfortunately my job was, and I relied on my family to give me that that sort of cushion that I could succeed in my job.
Doctor, I had this the notion, and I had heard it in Kashmir, in Jammu, Kashmir, back home in India, that the Kashmiri, the bonhomie among the Kashmiri diaspora in United States of America, although they are all well off now, they are all taxpayers and in a good position, including Kashmiri Overseas Association. But to my personal encounters, when since last 20 days, I found that the harmony is missing. People are more. I don't know. Could you define how is the diaspora, Kashmiri
Well,
diaspora? Yeah.
when I was when Indo-American Kashmir Forum was active, because
Indian American.
it went into dormancy quite frankly after the Modi government came in.
You were also its president and founding member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but until we were active, a little bit in 2012, 2014. There really, I didn't see really much of a sort of breakup in the sense we were politically active or interested people were all united from coast to coast. We did a number of symposiums in California, in New Jersey, in Washington D.C., in Houston. All that. It was really good. Now, big change that has taken place in my mind, according to me, is because of COVID.
Okay.
COVID kind of created that gap, and that gap basically ended up defining the younger people from the older people.
Oh, I
So
see.
older people, we are older people, and we came on the merits of our own personal qualifications
Hard work. Yeah.
and things like that, and we had to basically earn ourselves up. I mean, I remember as a student, there were days when we were not eating properly because of the scholarship money was so small. Now then, these youngsters came up, and they were all coming with the jobs directly because they were being transferred from Indian IT company to America.
Yes.
So they had no idea that what it meant to leave hand to foot in America. I mean, they came with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Begin your life in America. Yeah.
They began their life. They put them in front of the computer, and not only they are clicking away to their job, they are also earning money, which is sizable amount to start with.
Big amount.
So we saw that. We saw there was a gap between the priorities of these people who are thinking more in terms of financial investments and this thing and that thing, and we are
Which was
thinking
not
more and we are more
reality.
thinking about children and grandchildren and that sort of thing. And as I said, that gap had already started, but then when the COVID came, that almost created a gulf. So we do have, even if you go to a Kashmiri function right now, you'll see the youngsters will be all one place, and the older guys will be
Will be in a
all.
different
And
place.
so
So that is a generational gap as
chasm.
well. Yeah. Yeah.
There is a chasm. So there is that. I think I think that in my own line of work, where I meet all these people now who think somehow we didn't do enough. We could have done this. We could have, and not. And that's one thing to say we could have done this. They're saying even today I can do something and change things in Kashmir.
Yes.
I would tell them how now we have social media, now we can raise this thing, now we can do that thing, now we can do Google,
That's
now
all
we can do
spontaneous.
TikTok,
Spontaneous.
we can do that, and we can do that. I mean,
That's for the and not only in US. That's for the entire younger generation. They have this kind of fun.
see,
The different,
they think somehow they can do those kind of things. So
and they cry. They cry very soon. Yeah.
there's a more age gap that's keep creating this environment.
Doctor, just a small question, one, two question, then we within 2 hours. And I wanted to ask. Okay, I can agree. In Kashmir, the political situation, the politicians, or whatever situation is there, Kashmiris, I mean the Kashmir, both sects of Kashmir, Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Muslims, I mean, they are kept apart, and there is a difference created between the community. I'm not talking about the politicians and the infiltrators and the terrorists. I'm talking about the common Kashmiri. But we are away from the valley, and don't you think there should have been a bonhomie amid the larger Kashmiri community, which include Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Muslims there?
I think Kashmiri Muslims would rather have that. I think they are more oriented to that, and
Accommodative.
there's a reason for that because
Okay.
they don't accept the notion they had anything to do what happened in the Kashmir. See, they don't
Separate.
blame. You have to hear the speeches of the new MP Rahul Beer to understand their language. Where they say, I want to, I want to, I want to be, I want to take, I want to be, I seek forgiveness from Kashmiri Pandits for what happened. But we didn't do it. It was all these agencies. It was all these Pakistani jihadis. It was all somebody else.
Somebody else did it. Somebody else did it.
So for
Yeah.
that narrative, it's very easy for them in America, Europe, to come out and say, "Hey guys, we didn't have anything to do. Come on, let's be friends." But you have to understand, for us, that's a betrayal of our community back home,
Certain. Certain.
and so we cannot. See, they had a major opportunity when Kashmir Files came up. They had a major opportunity to say, "Hey, listen, I didn't know this happened 30 years back because I'm a young man of 30. I was not even born then." And now that you have told me that, I really feel sorry that my elders were involved in this
in
thing.
this kind of thing.
They
But
don't they
Doctor
do not
Sab,
accept that they
Doctor Saab,
were involved.
as a community now we are sprawling all over the globe and people are working and here and there. At somewhere down the line, irrespective of what happens at the governmental level, I think Modi Saab is trying his level best to make it work. But then again, as a community, as a natives of Kashmiris, we have to let go at some point of time because we cannot blame your. अब मुगलों के टाइम में ज्यादती हुई अब क्या करोगे? What can you do? Somewhere down the line, you have to liberate and emancipate from this thought, especially to the contemporary जो आपके साथ वाला आदमी है उसके साथ तो बात हो ही सकती है ना. तो मतलब मुझे लगता है कि somewhere down the line, yeah.
That is, I mean, it's for the community, the progressive element of the Kashmiri Pandit community. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying progressive component of the Kashmiri community is
To them to take over and
and
understand.
it has to take the
But I
leadership.
don't think there are buyers on either side. मैंने देखा है कि they are both cold-blooded kind.
No, I personally think, at least in overseas, Kashmiri Muslims are much more
Accommodative.
keen to be accommodated because, as I said, they say we didn't have anything to do with you watching what happened.
They say like that, yeah.
And this
That's
is
true.
and actually that is insulting to people like me who had his personal experience of going.
Because no, we all have. I have my person. Everybody has a personal
So
experience. Yeah.
I don't. I'm not asking them to do anything about it. But just admit, yes, it happened. It was not me who did it.
But
Maybe
it was
some of
wrong.
my relatives,
It
but
was wrong.
over.
It was
It's done
dangerous.
with, and let's move forward. If
Yes.
they only admit that Kashmiri Muslims were involved, I think Kashmiri Pandits will more than be happy
If
to
they
come out
admit it
and praise them.
openly, yes, and that will look very rational. That will look very rational and accommodative. That is the most important aspect. We all expect from them. Anyway, yet I feel that I'm a positive, optimistic person. I feel that somewhere down the line, all these lines, because time is a great healer. Time shaitan hai, time Bhagwan hai. So time will change everything in the future. Where we are, how will we live? How Kashmiris have been living over these centuries when they migrated out. But then again, we have some identity. I think also the Kashmiri Muslims are also going through an identity crisis. That's a subject for another day, sir. There's an identity crisis because one is their culture, thousands years of culture, which is native culture, and one is the culture which came from outside. Apart from the way of worship, I don't. I mean, I disrespect. I respect their way of worship. I respect everybody's way of worship. But yes, the cultural identity crisis are there. But I think that is also creating a dilemma. Anyway, Dr. Saab, I would like you to put a word for Indians, for Kashmiris in general, and for youngsters to be successful Indians abroad.
Well, for I think Kashmiri Pandits outside are already very successful. I mean, honestly, I don't think I can add anything more than what they are doing. I mean, they're all. I mean, I don't expect them to be as much conscious about what's going on back home. I think they have to succeed here, and I think they are succeeding here. So my challenge, quite honestly, as I see it, is primarily in Jammu. I think you have a section of the public there, Kashmiri Pandit public there, which is not doing well. And I think it behooves on the Kashmiri Pandits in India who are doing extremely well. I would say somebody told me they are probably the fifth richest community in India on a per capita basis. Kashmiri
Nowadays.
Pandits living outside. And I think it is not very good that they are not taking care as a
Of their
community.
brethren
In
back
fact,
home.
when I told you earlier that Delhi leadership is not happy with Kashmiri Pandits, part of that's Gujarati leadership. And Gujarati leadership just cannot understand how this community of whose advantage you have are not helping their have-nots.
That's
To a
very true.
Gujarati, that sounds weird, but that's where we are. So my message is really to those people in India to take care of the people who are at the lower end, and they are mostly in Jammu, and you should be doing something about it. And this is unfortunate that you are not.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Took your valuable time, and it was your magnanimity that you accepted to come to my show, Sheetalnath Conversation. And you know the Sheetalnath is
It
a
was an honor and a
Falcon.
privilege, sir. It was an honor and a privilege, sir. I'm very thankful for you giving me the time.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks. My pleasure. Good wishes. Good night. So that was Dr. Vijay Sazawal, the great eminent personality, Indian, Kashmiri Indian, you know, living in United States of America. Wonderful. You had this wonderful, interesting conversation. You could see how fruitful it was, and we talked about many dimensions. Although this is not a political program and it's not a religious program, but since his pursuits are political, so we had to talk about the political dimensions. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I still remember Ghalib's that couplet, "Hum hai mushtaq aur wo bezar." हमें मुश्ताक और वो बेजार या इलाही ये माजरा क्या है दिल नादा तुझे हुआ क्या है आखिर इस दर्द की दवा क्या है विद दैट कॉपलेट आई विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट नमस्कार गॉड ब्लेस एवरीवन जय हिंद